Welcome to In the Moment with Kortia, where we inform, inspire, and motivate you to be a positive agent of change. Good morning on this Motivational Monday. And I just want to say hello to everyone out there under the sound of my voice. Wow. Motivational Monday it is indeed. As far as like this has been a great weekend as far as like for me and my family and all those that we had the opportunity to fellowship with. And hey, let me just send a shout out to Central Louisiana and the surrounding areas. That's Natchitoches, Gina, Alexandria at 88.1 FM, Monroe, West Monroe on 98.9 FM, Shreveport, Greenwood on 92.5 FM, St. Joseph, Natchez, Mississippi on 99.3 FM, and Lake Charles on 100.1 FM. And on this Motivational Monday, tuning in with us today on the phone lines, we have an extra special guest. We have Darryll Stinson on the phone lines with us today. Darryll is an entrepreneur, the voice behind SecondChanceAthletes.com. He's an executive pastor of Growth Ministries at Life Church International in Duluth, Georgia, where he actually oversees, the guest experiences, small groups, and community outreach. He also serves and partners with the Fellowship of Christian Athletes to help athletes better their character, faith, and athletic performance. I mean, Darryll is, he's a husband, a father of three beautiful daughters, and is on a mission to help people experience life and life more abundantly. Good morning, Darryll. How are you doing this morning?
I'm doing phenomenal. Hello, world, all you beautiful people out there. It's going to be a great day, so stay tuned with us as we get into this.
Awesome. And I tell you, it's just like exciting because I love how God is really grouping all of his people together from like all different backgrounds, all walks of life. And, at one point in time, we actually had a sports agent that was on the show with us. And now we actually are going to be able to get a taste of what Darryll's going to bring to the table. And I really know that you're all going to find this really exciting for the subject matter Darryll's going to be talking about. So, Darryll, I know a little bit of your story, but I mean, the listening audience is really going to want to touch into this. And you're really going to want to stay tuned because, wow. You're going to see how what Darryll's going to be talking about is really going to correlate with what's really happening in our particular area over here. So, Darryll, why don't you actually let me know what actually got you into, I know, starting on this journey to what God has you, what you're doing right now as far as like being a speaker, and I know we mentioned like Second Chance Athletics. What is actually Second Chance Athletics?
Yeah, so Second Chance Athletes is essentially a consulting resource for former athletes to help them rebuild themselves after sports, to find identity, purpose, and build their dreams. How I got into it is interesting. It's like many of your listeners is God has you in development from a very early age. You have this desire to want to make an impact in people's lives, and you just don't know when it's going to come to fruition. But for me, Division I athletics was always my dream. And I thought that I was going to be a professional athlete after I played in college. And to me, that was my ticket out of the hood. That was my way I was going to buy my family a car and the way that I was going to be, massively successful and make an impact in the world. But like many other athletes, I suffered from an injury that took that dream away from me. And it completely rejected me. There was nothing I could do to change it, and it sent me into the deepest, darkest depression of my life. I had to have an emergency back surgery, and that should have ended my career, but I signed a liability waiver to be able to keep that dream alive. And I put my body through 2 years of absolute torment, and maybe we'll get into that later. But that torment made my depression even worse. I was just masking the pain of my injury with drugs and alcohol and all this stuff to be able to keep this career alive. I came to a crashing halt. My coaches found out I was taking some illegal substances, and that was it. They terminated my liability waiver going into my senior year, and thus I attempted suicide multiple times, ended up in a psychiatric unit, and that is where I found hope in Jesus and where I started to realize that my life had a meaning and a purpose beyond my sport. And so, the message is about athletics, but it's also about rebuilding your life after loss. It's about rebuilding your life after a divorce. It's about how do you rebuild yourself and pursue your dreams when life completely rejected you and took away your first love. And so, God made it very clear that he wanted me to begin to help athletes and really other disciplines at this point through this process that we call our 5-step framework from going from suicide to success. So that's kind of how I got into it. And it started with just working with athletes, sharing my testimony like I'm doing now. And then I realized that people were leaving my messages inspired, but they weren't leaving transformed. And I needed to go beyond the speaking moment and to build something sustainable and something where we could work and get our hands, could walk alongside some of these athletes to apply some of the principles that I was sharing in my testimony. So that's where our 5-step framework came from, and that's what I'm excited to share on today's show.
Awesome, Darryll. I'll tell you, it's I'm listening to what you're saying, and I mean, it's you resonate with a lot of some of the stories or whatever that I've actually heard in the realm of athletes. But it goes along to where when people cannot play, as far as like in their professional athletic careers or whatever level that they're on, and how they really just think life is really over. And just like you said, wow, that it's not just you go in and you touch in like the realm of depression. I mean, it's like depression is just waiting there with its arms wide open saying, hey, I've been waiting for you for a long time. Here I am. I mean, it sounds funny, but I mean, as well as I know, it's not a funny state to actually be in. So, I mean, but Darryll, I mean, through this transition, and I mean, like, I know we have a couple minutes before our first break here. So let me actually touch on this. I know you said it in like athletics and everything, and I know let's just go back a little bit further. I mean, what type of injury did you actually sustain? I mean, because I've heard a lot of different things, but it sounded like it was a back injury for you.
Yeah. So I had I was squatting one day. I was trying to impress the upperclassmen with how strong I was, and so I was squatting a little bit too much, and I came up wrong, and I pinched a nerve in my back. I didn't know it at the time, but I kind of felt something, so they pulled me out of that workout. I kind of just iced it up, and because I was so high pain tolerant, I didn't think anything was seriously wrong. I literally went a whole summer of workouts was just not doing, too many strengthful back exercises, but still working out. And because I was so athletic, I was still, in the front of all the workouts, but I just had this increasing pain. Finally, one day I looked down at my left leg and I slap it, and I see it's like Jello, and I'm like, what is going on? So I go get an MRI, come to find out I had a pinched nerve for months, and I had to have emergency back surgery, or my left leg was going to go paralyzed.
Wow. I tell you, I can definitely concur, with that story that you haven't read, because it just resonates as far as like with me, and with the whole pinched nerve that goes along in the back. Because the doctor, or should I say, God actually recently had me to go to a doctor, and I kind of almost had a similar issue that was going on that I was completely unaware of, from something that was going on with my back. But I mean, Darryll, it's just like right now, I mean, you're touching on some things, and for the listening audience out there, I know there are a lot of athletes that are listening. I mean, okay, we've got a lot of people that are tuning in right now, and a lot of you, listening to Darryll, and you're like, yeah, man, I really feel what you're saying, because I remember I had my hopes, I had my dreams, and all of a sudden this injury came, and then wow, how was I going to make it out of where I was staying at? I couldn't do the dreams that I had for my, my parents, the goals that I had. But listening to Darryll right now, I'm pretty sure that as we go get more into, his story, you're going to find out that, and this was a hard lesson for myself to learn, and I can definitely say you could probably testify to this also, Darryll, that, sports is not the only way. It's one way, but not the only way, okay?
Right.
So, look, definitely I want each and every one of you, when you are listening to what Darryll is saying, to, look, take this to heart, okay? Really take it to heart, because I know it's touching you right there in your moment right now. And, Darryll, we got about a minute before we go head out the door for, should I say, for our first break there. And then let me just ask you this. I mean, during that time, in a minute, okay, how did you actually cope, with dealing with that pain? Okay, how did you actually cope with that whole situation right after surgery?
Yeah, I ran from it. I hid from it. I tried to mask the depths of my pain, just like many of us when we feel pain. Instead of being open and transparent about our feelings of depression, about how much you're in pain, we decide to put on this mask and pretend that we're strong, especially as athletes. You don't want to show anybody that you have weakness. And so I just bottled it up. I just got some pain pills and I pretended like I was okay. In fact, I was supposed to be out for a whole year after my back surgery. I came back 2 days later, got out of a wheelchair, walked into my team meeting room, trying to portray this image like I'm going to be back on that field. Instead, I should have let them roll me on that wheelchair.
Wow.
And so, I'm excited for the rest of our segments today because this applies, again, to any discipline. If you are a kid and you're listening to this show and you feel like your friends are completely rejecting you, if you've been in a relationship for 21 years and your wife or your spouse completely rejected you, if you are a business owner that lost your business and the economy completely rejected you, if you're like me and you're pursuing this dream, but an injury completely rejected your dream of playing in the NFL or professional athletics, we're going to talk about how you rebuild your life after loss.
Amen. And look, definitely you're touching everybody right where they are, Darryll. And hey, everyone stay in your moment, and we'll be right back. Welcome back to In the Moment with Kortia Kuzan on this Motivational Monday. And hey, if you're just tuning in, we've got Darryll Stinson on the phone lines of Second Chance Athletes. I tell you, it's a great, subject matter that's actually going on today. And, Darryll and I were talking a little bit as far as like when we were on break. And, Darryll, just how I shared with you in our particular area, the rates that are going through as far as like with suicide and whatnot are really high in our different area. And I know that God brought you about with that. Tell me exactly, what is it that what's the process that actually happened with you, and how did God actually guide you out of that dark area?
Yeah, so after I had my injury, my back surgery, and that was my freshman year, my true freshman year. And the coaches told me that there was another athlete who had just had the same surgery the year before me. He tried to come back. It didn't work. He just put his body through more pain. So they said, look, we're going to give you a golden opportunity. We're going to honor your scholarship so you get your school paid for free, and you can come around football whenever you want. But for me, sports wasn't what I did. It was who I was. And I couldn't live with the fact that I had spent my entire life pursuing a goal that was completely ripped away from me because of an injury. And rather than finding someone to talk about how I felt about failure and how I really felt like since sports was over, that meant my life should be over, I internalized that pain, and I turned to my opioids that they subscribed me for my back injury. I turned to partying. I turned to drinking. I turned to anything to keep my mind off of my depression, off of my failure. And it just grew worse. And I was able to rehabilitate my body to be able to play again. But it came at a cost to my health. The more I played, the more drugs I had to take. I actually developed an opioid addiction. And so oftentimes when we're in that moment of depression or that season of suicidal ideation, we're tempted to turn towards things that can provide us with immediate satisfaction. So a lot of people, it's drugs. Some people it's cutting. Whatever your outlet is that's unhealthy. It's not talking to somebody. It's not venting. It's not getting checked for mental illness. Because we just see that as this taboo thing, which is not true. Everybody struggles, and it's okay not to be okay. But I didn't know that then. And so it promises us this long-term satisfaction, but it can never give us long-term satisfaction because we're never really dealing with the root issue. And so, I got deeper and deeper and deeper into it, just like many people. They start off cutting, and they start off writing suicidal notes, and they actually start off trying to make suicidal attempts. And that's kind of what my journey was like. It went from, opioids to multiple substances to partying to sexual addiction to just anything to keep my mind off of it. And, finally I kept that up for 2 years. And actually what happened was I was taking so many opioids that every time I made contact on the football field, my nose would bleed. My coaches saw that something was wrong. So going into my senior year, they were like, look, man, we don't know what you're doing, but we can't let you do whatever you're doing. And they basically terminated my liability waiver, and that took away my coping means. At the same time, I had a girlfriend who I was dating for 4.5 years and had intended on marrying. And since I wasn't going to be a professional athlete anymore, she left me and got engaged to another man. And that was more feelings of rejection and pain that I was afraid to admit. Like, who wants to admit as a man that this girl that you've been touring around the last 4.5 years of your life since high school has left you and is now engaged to another man? And so rather than, owning that, I just, tried to play it off like I didn't care and like it didn't faze me and didn't affect me. And that just grew internally worse and sickening. And I always tell people this: you're only as sick as your secrets. Part of the way that you get victory over suicide and over depression is, watch this, turning the light on in the darkness. It's getting it off your chest, because one of the lies of suicide is that you're the only one going through what you're going through and that nobody else can relate. I can't tell you how many people I could have reached out to, but in my mind, I was like, well, they don't know because, they never had a chance to go play professional sport. Like they don't know because, they might have wanted to, but they didn't have the athletic talent. I actually had the athletic talent. For me, it wasn't like, oh, maybe you can make it. It was just, when are you going to enter the draft? And so, I didn't think anybody could relate. And I was so wrong. In fact, check this out. I had a father that could relate. My dad was a superstar athlete. He was 6'2". He ran a 4.3, and this was in the 90s, early 90s. So that was like unheard of then. And, he high jumped 7+. I mean, he was a freak of nature athlete. He got hurt because he was had a knee injury while playing intramural basketball. And my own father I could have reached out to about these challenges I was having, but I just didn't. And so I just encourage you, if you are in that season where you just feel like nobody can relate, nobody can understand, you don't want to hear people tell you cliche things, just get out of the darkness and stop fighting your battle alone. Because if you fight it with somebody else, just the fact that you get off your chest and hear somebody say, hey, I kind of can sense what you're going through, that is going to already stop making that heaviness so heavy upon your life. And you'll start to feel some freedom because like, man, you're not fighting this battle in dark and in secret anymore. And so, that's where I was at, man. And, thankfully, for me, I started making suicidal attempts. I started, drinking and driving, hoping to get in car accidents. I tried to swallow a whole bottle of pills what do you call those things? Methadones. I tried to swallow a whole bottle of that. And a couple of times I tried to do that with different things I was subscribed to. Oxycodones was another time I tried to swallow a whole bottle of pills and I ended up vomiting them out. But, essentially my suicidal attempts landed me in the psychiatric unit. And it would be there that I had really a supernatural encounter that changed my life.
Wow. I tell you, I would definitely say that, you've really reached so many of our listening audience out there that, see, the thing is that we found out over here in our area, Darryll, is that, a lot of people that suffer with, depression and different things as far as like not being able to go forth with their athletic careers. We also see, how you brought the thing up as you're a man, you were dating this girl for like 4 years of your life. You ended up going to get married, and then when she found out you weren't going to go any further with your professional career, she left you for someone else. And I know as a male, that's a really big blow. But then, we have other individuals, like I said, that are out there that may not have had an athletic pursuit, but, as far as their personal career, their professional careers, as far as like in the business field, the personal lives, because of something that actually happens, a lot of these things are similar in their lives. And you were like really just firing on all pistons and touching so many different, areas that I know that really resonate with a lot of the listeners out there. And I can guarantee you pretty much answered some questions and actually given some people hope out there in that particular area. Because, just like what you said, that when people get in that particular state, they think that no one can relate to them, that they're all alone. They're going to be treated like, I don't know, just like a pariah, like they've got leprosy or something. Like people are going to come down on them, like, what's wrong with them? But really, look, everyone out there, listen to what Darryll is actually saying, okay? Listen at how he went through all of these different phases, and really everything you see that's going on through the country now, I would actually say he's pretty much going through those different things, suicides, opioid addiction, putting body through different, just a plethora of things that are actually going on. And, what's really happening is that, God is wanting you to realize right now just how much and how important you are, okay? And if he's taking Darryll through all of these things to bring Darryll up to this point right now, he can take you through what you're going through at this moment. So, look, we're going to go ahead into this next break, but look, stay with us in your moment. Welcome back to In the Moment with Kortia Kuzan on Motivational Monday. Hey, family, I know you're out there tuning in. I know you're anxious and all of this great subject matter that we have coming across the airwaves on today with our extra special guest, Darryll Stinson of Second Chance Athletes. Darryll, before we even go into anything else, why don't you just go ahead and let the listening audience know about how to get in contact with you?
Yeah, right on our website, Second Chance Athletes, you can go ahead and go to that contact page. Or, you know what, I just tell people to sign up for our free coaching session. We'll do a 30-minute, complimentary coaching session. It's a discovery to see if we should work together beyond that. But, hey, if all you get is some great advice and some content to help you live your best life after sports, then let's do that there. So they can head over to secondchanceathletes.com.
Awesome. So, Darryll, in saying that, I tell you, let's go right into this because just like what you have gone through, like so many others have gone through as far as like that have been crushed with their athletic dreams they would actually verbalize it, taken away from them, okay? So how has what you've gone through, how's God used that to start you on a pathway of helping others? How did that all come about?
Yeah, so I think for me, I'll tell you about the psychiatric experience because sometimes it does take divine intervention, and then I'll kind of cover the practical. So we'll go spiritual and practical, okay? So whether or not, you believe in Jesus or whatnot, then, you can chew the meat, spit out the bones, right? But you're going to get something helpful. So for me, I went to the psychiatric unit. I didn't have any, belief in any type of organized religion. I believe in God, but not organized religion. I have been hurt by pastors before in the past, and I thought that all organized religion was just fooey. And while I was there in the psychiatric unit after my multiple attempts at suicide in Detroit, Michigan, there was a woman who I didn't know, never even saw before in my life. She came up to me when I was in the admission unit, and she said, "I don't know who you are. I don't have any jurisdiction to be back here in this part of the hospital, but God sent me back here to tell you that you need to say yes to him."
That's powerful.
And I'm like, this lady doesn't even know me, blah, 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 blah. And she, tried to walk me through prayer, and I just kept yelling at her, "Leave me alone. I just want to die." A few minutes later, my grandmother had came in the room. My mom had called her when she was driving me to the hospital. And my grandma came through the door, and she said, "Honey, I've been praying for you all the way here." She had driven from an hour and a half away. She said, "God told me you know exactly what to do. You need to say yes to him." So it was the same command a second time. And I see this so much when people struggle with depression and suicide, is that there's this longing, this calling deep inside. There's this divine intervention happening, whether it's through people, whether it's through a radio show like we're doing now, or a podcast, or something they're listening to. I know people who have cut on the television and they heard somebody just say the exact thing that they needed to hear, and they knew it was God, but they kind of resisted it. That's how I was, Instead of surrendering to that inner pull and tug, I was just like, what, Grandma goes to church, she's supposed to say this, I don't even know who that lady is, it's coincidence. And I kind of dismissed it because that's how hard my heart was. And then the best way I know how to describe it is that, that my grandma prayed for me. She kind of backed away, and I just remember just sitting there, just feeling the weight of depression. My family was all in. They had never seen me this low because I had put on this appearance that I was okay. So they were all crying, not feeling hopeless and helpless, and it was just heavy. You could literally feel the thickness of heaviness in the room. And I just remember hearing this still small voice speak to my heart saying, "Son, will you say yes to me?" And hearing his voice gave me the strength to just mutter out "Yes, Lord." In the moment that I said yes, the depression that I was under for years immediately left the room. My eyes had been swollen shut from crying, and they got healed. I could open them again. It felt so good. I didn't know what else to do. I was in a psychiatric unit, and I just kept screaming, "Yes, Lord, yes, Lord, yes, Lord." And so that was the beginning of me having hope. Now, what God began to do is he began to change my mindset as I started to work with other people. Because I get it, that might not be people's first step. I hope it is, but it might not be people's first step. And so one of the things that he showed me is this whole concept of strength being how much you harm yourself. Right? Like I used to tell myself when I was in it that, man, I used to feel bad about myself that I never had the guts to pull the trigger. Right, that's the dialogue of a lot of people who are struggling with suicidal ideation. It's like, oh, if I cut myself, I don't have the guts to do something worse. And so I thought that. But after God started to show me this process and show me me fighting these depression battles and mental illness battles, I realized that it was actually easier to go ahead and end it than it was to stay in the fight. And so I'm not promising people, and I said, we got to reframe what strength is. Strength isn't the ability to pull the trigger or the ability to tie a rope around your neck and hang yourself from a tree. That's not strength. No, that is weakness. Strength is when everything in you wants to pull the trigger, when everything in you wants to tie that rope around your neck, but you find the strength to say, no, I'm not going to do it. I might not believe that there's any reason to live or any reason to stay in this relationship, but I'm going to keep fighting and believe. So strength is when you have nothing left and somehow you find the guts and the tenacity to keep going when the going gets tough. That's strength, and that is something that I had to reframe, and that is a message that I share with the world because they need to realize that they're not weak because they're having problems. In fact, they're some of the strongest people on the earth because they are not quitting in the midst of their problems.
That is, woo. Amen. Oh, my Lord. Yes, indeed. Wow. Oh, my Lord. I'm telling you, I just felt something in my spirit. Someone just decided that, they just said right then in that moment, Darryll, listening to what you were saying, they're saying to themselves, I am worthy. I felt some type of chains were broken and something that really just happened with some people out there because it's just, wow. Oh, my Lord. Hey.
Because it is a lie. It's a lie that magnifies your insecurities. It's a lie that gets you to focus on your problems. It's a lie that gets you to focus on your weaknesses. And none of it is highlighting your strengths. None of it is highlighting how strong you are. None of it is telling you that, guess what? You took some every movie that we watch, the Rocky movies, the Avengers movies, the climax of some of those movies is when it seems like all hope is lost, and then boom, here comes, them back from the past, and here comes this hero. Here, Rocky gets up one more time, and we celebrate those moments in movies, but it's like we don't realize that we're living them in life. And I just want people to know that you are the Rocky, right? Like you are the Iron Man still fighting when you have nothing left. Yeah, that is you. Recognize your own strengths. Get your focus off of your problems and get it on the fact that you're still standing.
Wow. That's what I'm talking about. Hey, I tell you what, if that's not a motivational Monday to motivate your spirit, everything that's going on with you right now, I tell you, this is truly God-inspired right now. He's touching. Look, I'm going as far as like saying not only those that were suffering depression and contemplating suicide, but each and every one of you that's just needing a reason to actually move, go on, get up, trying to figure out things within yourself. If you have truly been listening to what Darryll has been saying, you have heard the voice of God coming through his mouth, those lips of clay, to where he's just being basically a touching point for God to just touch you right where you are right now. Darryll, I mean, man, that's just something that's really resonating with me right now, and it's really, wow, it's putting a lot of exclamation points on different things that's going on in, my life and my family's life. So, Darryll, I tell you, I know this is something that you're really passionate and excited about. I mean, through this process, right before we go into the next break, next 2 minutes, how would you say, or what advice would you give to someone that may have identified these type of tendencies in another individual and they have no idea what to do?
It's okay. Reach out to somebody. I know that's not deep, but it's so helpful. It's so practical just to send somebody a text message. There was a guy the other day who posted on Facebook, and it was just the suicidal thoughts he was having. He was just like, I don't want to do life anymore. And I saw that, and I saw a bunch of people comment and be like, it's okay, God's got you, like all this stuff. And I'm like, man, somebody pick up the phone and call him, because that is a cry for help. And so a lot of times I would say stop throwing out like mini cues and just like pick up the phone and call somebody, because maybe somebody, I actually picked up the phone and called them, but like maybe what if somebody didn't? You know what I mean? Then he might have went ahead and went through with it, all because he just didn't, have that courage and that strength just to pick up the phone and let people know what he was going through. And so, after we were able to talk, of course, he realized he wasn't alone. I told him about my story. He was like, wow. And so I would say, man, pick up the phone and call somebody and just know that it's okay, right? Just know that it's okay not to be okay, and get over that taboo. Realize that you're not weak because you reach out. You're actually strong because you're going against your urge to remain in isolation.
Awesome. Darryll, I'll tell you some good stuff, man. I tell you, look, this is Darryll Stinson that we have on the lines with our Second Chance Athletes, and he's bringing the word of God, whether you realize it or not, and he's touching you right now in your moment. So, look, we're about to go into this next break, but Darryl's going to definitely be back with us, so what? Stay in your moment. Welcome back to In the Moment with Kortia Kuzan. Wow. Mr. Darryll Stinson of Second Chance Athletes. Wow. God has been really using this powerhouse, this man of God, this uniquely anointed and appointed individual for this mission that God has him on. It has been, it's been fire up in here today. There's been some kind of fire going on in here today. So, I love the passion and everything that Darryll has, not just because you might say, well, obviously he's going to be passionate about, what he's going through, but it's a little bit deeper than that. I mean, it really is a little bit deeper than that, because you can see how it just resonates through every area of his life, not just in the area because he went through suicide, but he's really looking to make sure that people, myself, my wife, you that are listening, really have a life more abundantly. And I mean, that's what we've been talking about. So, Darryll, why don't you actually, you let the people know, you share, portions of your life. I mean, you've encouraged different people. Now, let's guide them through the process of how you actually help, people that are in this state or may have been in this state.
Yeah. So I'm going to say that, but let me say this one quick thing is I am passionate about this topic, but I'm passionate about people. I'm passionate about life. As a person who should have lost his life after how many times I attempted suicide, I value life at a whole new level. And so I'm passionate about helping people enjoy their best life. And I love people. How I go about doing that through Second Chance Athletes being the vehicle is, we have a 5-step framework to rebuild your life after sports. But again, this applies to any discipline. So we got to start with inventory. Right? It's hard to know where you want to go without really accessing where you are. So here's my question to the listeners today is, if you had, on a scale of 1 to 10, had to rate your life at its highest moment, that marriage at its highest peak, that athletic career at its highest peak, that business when you were, skyrocket profits and traveling the world. And if you had to rate on a scale of 1 to 10 your life at its highest point, what would you rate it? Okay. And then if you had to rate on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being the lowest, 10 being the highest, your current life right now, how joyful, how powerful, how confident you feel, what would you rate it? And if your former life is higher than your current life, we can help. Because that is what our framework is about, okay? How to stop living your current life as if it's second best to your former life, okay? The way we do that is we have a 5-step process. It starts with acceptance. We take you through a series of exercises and teachings that about how you can accept the past and start to begin the process of moving towards the present, because you cannot move forward while looking through the rearview mirror. Next, we go into believe. We talk about how to believe that there is a life better and more fulfilling than sports in our current discipline, but then whatever, right? Like if that marriage is over, how do you believe that the next one is going to be far better than that? If that business is over, how are you going to believe that the next one is going to be far better than that? So we take you through some exercises to get there. And these are all things that I've done personally in my life to rebuild my life from suicide to success, to start multiple businesses, and to be able to see God bless those things, and to be able to, more importantly than the financial success, is the overall happiness of my life. Like, I wouldn't trade my life down for that of, you know, Kobe Bryant's right now, and I strongly mean that. And so we talk about accepting, we talk about believe, then we talk about discovery. This is the part that people so much love, because this is that purpose discovery. We have a series of 22 questions that we take you through to help you discover your purpose. We even offer a complimentary sounding board call, because we really want you to be able to finally say that I know what I know what my purpose is. I'm not confused about it. I can describe it. I have language for it. So accept, believe, discover, and then pursue is all about systems and structures to set yourself up for success. It's about going after your dream, mapping out a plan, and then persist is how to protect yourself from failure, right? From quitting, from life beating you out of your dream. And we talk about basically how to fail-proof your dream and that persist. So we got accept, believe, discover, pursue, persist. That is our 5-step framework that we can apply. So if you feel like, man, you know, I am living my current life as if it's second best to my former life, man, I know that there's higher levels for me to get to, no matter if you're an athlete or a business owner or, you know, in a marriage, whatever. If something I said has resonated with you and this framework is something that you think can benefit your life, then go ahead, head over to secondchanceathletes.com. You can go to our coaching page or fill out that contact information, and we'll make sure that we get this conversation started.
Wow. Great stuff. I tell you, Darryll, it really resonates at how you're talking about you're into people, you know, and, you know, it's something, and it kind of seems to some of you that may be listening, like, okay, obviously he may be has to be into people, you know, based upon everything that he's talking about. But, you know, when you can actually verbalize and let that come out of your mouth, that really shows you to the extent of the heart change that, you know, the Holy Spirit has actually done on the inside of you. I mean, because it's one thing to say, okay, I've got a ministry, you know, all of these different things that go on, you know, and I've got a heart for people. But I mean, when that's like the foundation, as far as, like, you know, of course, with the Word of God, that God actually has you to connect with people in that certain way. I mean, a lot of you may not realize this, and I'm sure, Darryll, you can echo in on this, but when you say you have really like a heart for people, your passions for people, I mean, it really kind of opens you up to a lot of ridicule, I mean, heartache, pain, different things that people just really don't want to have anything to do with. And I know at the beginning of the show how you said you're all about having a relationship with God and not about this whole organized type of religious type of, you know, stuff that's out there. And, you know, believe me when I tell you, I know exactly what you mean about that. So, but the thing is that, I mean, how is it that, let me ask you this. I know you're talking about letting them know where they are to determine where they need to actually go. I mean, yeah. What are some, well, let me just say, real challenges you found actually going through this process with the different people?
Yeah, I think when we get in, first of all, that acceptance piece, a lot of people, especially if you're like, you know, 10 years removed from your divorce, or you're, you know, 15 years removed from playing sports, they think that they don't need that step, right? They're like, man, I'm already over it. And I'm like, okay, but if you could go back 10, 15 years, would you do it? And they're like, yeah. I'm like, well, you're not over it. you just got old, you know? And so I think really being honest about the level of happiness. That's why I got to do that scale assessment, because when they do that, they realize, oh, there is a distance of my current life versus my former life, or my current marriage versus my former marriage. And so, you know, I'm not suggesting go back to playing or go back to that old relationship. I'm saying there's a process to find the higher level of joy and happiness in your current state. So that's one major challenge, is that acceptance piece, getting people to really let me walk them through that process, and our team walk them through that process. And then the other would be the discovery. I mean, if you do a Google search on discover my purpose, I mean, it is a buzz topic. And for me, you know, none of what I went through worked. It was like all they really was saying is, what's your passion? What's your passion? What's your passion? And I was like, sports. And it was like, I don't want to, you know, what other talents and skills do you have? I don't know. Like, if whatever they are, they're not better than running fast, jumping high, catching, you know. And so for me, those questions didn't help me dig deep enough to find out what my true purpose was. Even spiritually, you know, God, you know, show you. And I was praying, but I didn't get a lot of clarity. And so I learned that, you can't get the right answers if you don't ask the right questions.
Awesome.
And we've developed the right questions. And so I think one of the challenges for me was really putting verbiage around what my purpose was, especially being a person who has multi expressions of my purpose, right? Like, I'm not just a pastor. I'm not just a motivational speaker. I'm not just a writer. I'm a ton of different things. And so, but there's this underlying deeper sense of purpose that covers everything that I do, and the rest are just expressions of that purpose. And so that is a big challenge for people, is to really put language to it. But our process helps. I promise I've never had an athlete walk through it and not feel like, man, this is it. And so we've had tremendous success in that area.
Man, Darryll, that's some good stuff there, brother. Some good stuff. And look, I know we got about 2 minutes or whatever remaining in the show. So, hey, before we even head out the door with that today, why don't you everything that you said, I mean, man, it's just been great. It's been resonating not only with me but the listening audience. But, for these last 2 minutes there, why don't you just let the listening audience know, how did that actually shape you to be who you are right now, and how you can, just say, well, those experiences can actually be something that can catapult people into their life of, purpose.
Yeah, I'm going to be cliche and say your misery will become your ministry. And I think that's true for me, because, I speak to suicidal prevention. I speak to depression. I speak to people struggling with alcohol addictions. We do a recovery meeting every Wednesday at our church. I mean, the things that cause me the most pain are the things that are causing me the most fulfillment in helping other people get over those pains now in this season of my life. And I think that when you're going through it, all you can think about is yourself and how heavy it is. But what I've been able to do and what God has enabled me to do is to turn my pain into purpose, and to turn my ashes into beauty. And so I am able to relate to people who are going through it. I am able to, my pastor says I can speak to people from the streets to the boardroom, and I'm versatile in that way, because I know what it's like to be on the bottom, and I know what it's like to be on, the top in some ways. And so, I think my misery has become my ministry. I'm sensitive to people. I love people. I value life more than honestly the average person, So when it comes to hanging out with people or sending that text message or making that phone call, I do it because I realize how short and how precious life is. And so for those of you who may not be struggling with suicidal thoughts or depression or maybe this message, I encourage you to send some words of encouragement to those that are. Like call your best friend, call your parents, answer the phone call with the person that you're like, don't really want to talk to them today because they talk too long. Just do it. Show your love and your affection, because life is too short not to enjoy it.
Wow, good stuff. And I tell you what, folks, family, we've had Mr. Darryll Stinson on Second Chance Athletes up in the studio with us today. And look, I know he's definitely said some things that have resonated with your spirit, set you free, and gave you steps to even go towards that greater purpose that God has in store for your life. Darryll, it has been an honor and, man, more than a privilege to actually have you on the radio show today. And, I can see it probably be a time we may actually have to have you come back to actually go ahead and speak to the listening audience again. So everyone out there, look, we know God loves you. We love you. Look, stay in that moment. Take care, and God bless. See you on tomorrow.